Hey everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. A lot of you guys are emailing me, Dan at theclinicaltrialsguru.com, which is good. Thank you. Others have been calling or texting 949-415-6256. Others have been following me on social networks and asking me random questions there. Doesn't matter where, whatever you're comfortable with, just do it. I'll keep you anonymous. Most people want to be anonymous in this industry, which I can see why. Although sometimes I don't understand either. But today I'm doing another long video because we're approaching the holiday season. I'll be leaving on vacation for 2 weeks, so I want to leave lots of long form content. So every day this week, today's Tuesday, December the 8th. So yesterday I did a 40-minute interview with Ibs Mahmoud from drugdev.org, the CEO. Really good interview. Go check it out. The guy's got lots of interesting things to talk about, research, and talk about where the industry's heading. So I think you guys should definitely check it out. At least I think it's worthwhile. Hopefully you do too. Last week I did another one of these long videos where I kind of batched a lot of questions together and then answered them. That was about 30 minutes. Today I'm going to probably do another 20 to 30 minute video where I'm batching more questions. So bear with me. You may not be interested in all of these, but hopefully you find some value somewhere in this video. Okay, so let's get right into it. First question. I'm going to need some water. First question comes from someone who sent me an email. I had a question that I believe you may have the most experience answering. For a trial I'm overseeing as the clinical trials director, the sponsor had some turnover in staff and therefore wants to also have me work as a consultant for the same trial and basically help them with IRB documentation, improving patient recruitment, etc. Is this a conflict of interest? And if so, is there a way to phrase the contract to avoid double dipping? I would greatly appreciate this being confidential. So if you're a clinical trials director, first of all, I'm assuming you're a clinical trial director for a site or a network of sites. If you're the clinical trial director for a CRO and the sponsor approached you about this because they're having turnover at the sponsor level, first of all, I don't think they would do that. But if they did, your employer may not be okay with that, so I definitely want to, if you care at all about your job security, check in with them. If you don't, then go ahead and do it. However, I think you might be from a site, and you might be the PI or the manager or something. So, yeah, you're not the PI, you're the clinical trials director. So if you're from the site, and let's say you're an owner, or have a managerial position, I mean, you may want to still talk to your employer about it. Again, same situation as the CRO, because they may not be alright with that. But if you're the owner, or if you can make that decision on your own, or if you just don't care about job security because you see this as a potential opportunity, go for it. I don't see this as a conflict of interest because you're not a PI. You can't necessarily manipulate study data or things of that nature. And I doubt they're going to be asking you to do anything remotely along those lines. What it sounds like they're going to have you help them with is the IRB documentation for sites, patient recruitment. This is a good opportunity. If you need help, I'll be more than willing to help you out. I do a lot of consulting as well. So no, this is not a conflict of interest. I wouldn't worry about phrasing the contract to avoid double dipping. They're probably going to give you a consultation agreement for yourself. If you don't have a consulting company, you just do it through your own name as an individual. So don't worry about that, okay? At least it's my opinion. But again, check with your company. I don't want you getting fired and letting them know that Dan from the Clinical Trials Guru is a lunatic and told me to do this, right? So if you're concerned about job security, run it through your employer. If that doesn't matter, or it doesn't apply, or you just don't care, go ahead and do it. I personally don't find that there's any conflict of interest there, right? Next question. Hey Dan, my question is, Our site has always had the PI sign a CDA with a sponsor to obtain protocol synopsis and feasibility information. When it comes to an actual CTA, that's a clinical trial agreement, our institution CEO signs all contracts. Is it acceptable practice to continue to have a PI who is interested in the study to sign the CDA only? Does it have to be the institution head? So the answer is no. Okay, CDA can be signed by anyone at the institution. When we are busy at my sites and going 1,000 miles an hour, and there's a CDA that needs to be signed and the PI is not available and I'm not available, I tell my coordinators to sign the CDA. Okay, it doesn't matter who signs the CDA as long as it's someone from the institution. That's all that matters. If it's the PI signing the CDA, it's even better. Okay, the sponsor would actually prefer that the PI sign the CDA and the contract. And I don't know what contracts you're referring to where the PI never has to sign it. In all my experiences in this industry, the PI is required to sign the contract, the CTA, the clinical trial agreement. And vice versa, they're not often required to sign the CDA. It could be anyone from the institution. But for the CTA, it needs to be the principal investigator signing it and acknowledging that they reviewed it, including the budget and the contract, and also someone from the site. As far as the contract is concerned, it does have to be someone from the institution, but it also needs to be the PI. And as far as CDAs, the confidential disclosure agreements, or the secrecy agreements, which basically the sponsor is letting you know not to divulge any information about the study to anyone else, those can be signed by anyone at the institution. Okay, so hopefully that clears it up. Might be a little confusing. Here's another one. I'm a physician interested in clinical research. I reside in San Diego. Very interesting. I'm going to be emailing you later because there's a lot of things I want to get done in San Diego, actually. Not too far from there. At present time, I'm not practicing medicine. I'm very interested in clinical research and would like to get training and certifications in this field to be able to work in this field. I have some experience and self-training in this field as part of my education and voluntary work. What I'm most interested in is CRA, is in a CRA position. Although I've been told that I am overqualified, but that is my interest and I'm ready to receive your advice on how to start. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, so 2 ways you can go, and I need more information on you. Are you a licensed MD in the United States, or are you a foreign MD, which you can still say you're an MD in the United States, but you just can't practice, right? If you are a licensed MD in the United States, you probably are overqualified to be a CRA, but what you can do is be a medical monitor. And the best way to go about being a medical monitor, and they get paid really good money, like we're talking in the upper 6 figures here, like 200 to 300 a year, if you're a full-time medical monitor for one of the big CROs. Of course, they're going to want you to have some experience. So again, if you're an MD licensed in the United States, you need to be doing clinical research from somewhere. You can have a little boutique site that only does 2 or 3 trials a year. You want to be getting some experience on your resume so that, because your end game is to work at a CRO, so your goal should be to become a medical monitor, and the only way to gain some experience, or I shouldn't say the only way, but the easiest way to gain some experience is to run your own site. Again, a boutique site. If you need help with this, let me know. I can help you. I do consulting all the time. Shameless plug there. Or you can go apply at a hospital where they do research, like an academic institution, and get some experience that way, although that is a much slower route. And if your end game is to become a medical monitor as quickly as possible, I would suggest either starting your own small research site or finding another site that you can be a sub-investigator on, and then start applying to all the major CROs as medical monitor. Quintiles, PPD, Par Excel, Covance, INC, all of them. They're always hiring medical monitors. If you are an MD from another country but are living here in the United States, then you are not overqualified to be a CRA, but you still need that experience. but because you're not a PI, you're not able to be a PI in this country, because you need to be a licensed MD in this country to be a PI in this country, usually, like 99% of the time, you'll have to get that experience as a study coordinator at any research site, any research clinic, any hospital, anywhere that they'll hire you, okay? And then get some studies on your CV, and then start applying to different CRA jobs, or different CRA job opportunities that exist out there. So those are the two different ways you can go about it, and I'm not sure which one applies to you, but I'm glad I don't know, because I kind of explained both. So for anyone else out there watching who's in either one of those situations, hopefully this helps, okay? Here's another one. I've recently been granted a second interview with a research company to become a clinical research coordinator. This interview will be with the CEO of the company as well as the medical director. I was wondering if you could give me advice on what sorts of questions to expect during the second interview. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So you've already gone through the first interview. They probably wanted to see, they wanted to vet you and see if you're a good fit. Now they want to look at you further. They want to see if you're a good fit for their culture, not just for the job opportunity. That was the purpose of the first interview, to see if you were qualified or a good candidate for the job itself. Now they want to see if you're a potentially good fit for the culture. This is important in larger sites because you need to work well with others in this job. As a study coordinator, you'll be working with a lot of people, fast-paced environment, especially if it's a high-enrolling site. They're going to ask you a lot about either your experience with whatever therapeutic indications they're dealing with at that site. So if they do psychiatric trials, they're going to ask you if you're comfortable working with psych patients. And what are your experiences working with psych patients, and how do you handle someone who maybe hasn't taken their medication for a while and is acting like a madman and is being belligerent and perhaps causing a scene? How do you handle this situation? They ask you different things like that. If it's an oncology site, they're going to ask you what are your experiences dealing with cancer patients and their families. If it's a pediatric trial, they're going to ask you what are your experiences dealing with children and their families. So be very up to speed, be very much caught up to speed on the particular therapeutic indications that that research site is conducting trials in. So you definitely, if you don't know what kind of trials they do, you go on Google and you look it up, and then if you don't know anything about those medical indications, obviously you don't want to appear like you don't know anything about it at all during the interview. So you go on Google and you learn the type of trials that are out there. You go on clinicaltrials.gov, find out what trials are enrolling, see if they're actually participating in any of the studies you find. And if they're not, you can let them know, hey, I found this study, I can apply to get it. Anything to make you stand out in this second interview. I don't typically do second interviews ever, but some organizations I know they do. So usually they'll have one person conduct the first interview, and then a more senior level person conduct the second interview, which is the case with you because now you're meeting with the CEO as well as the medical director. So that sounds like exactly what is going on here. So yeah, just be up to speed on the medical indications that they conduct trials in at the site and everything that entails. Okay. Here's another one. My question is it an in-house CRA position? What is the difference of being a home-based and in-house CRA? What are the things to do to be able to excel in this job with no experience in oncology? So there's CRAs, they're either home-based or they work out of the office. Most CRAs are home-based. However, when you're a brand new CRA with no experience, they usually want you in-house at one of their offices where they can kind of train you and kind of show you the ropes of how to be a monitor. They'll have you do lots of shadowing with other CRAs, helping them out at their site selection visits or their site initiation visits, making sure that you really understand the protocols before they start sending you out on your own. An in-house CRA, you obviously have a little more freedom, although you're still doing the same amount of work, and you get less hand-holding right? But you expect a lot of WebEx conferences, a lot of teleconferences, lots of emails back and forth, lots of phone calls from sites. So both of the same job functions. It's just one you're doing it in your home, the other one you're doing at the office. In your home office, they'll actually provide you with a laptop or a computer, a printer, a fax, everything you need that you would have at the office, right? And what are the things to do to be able to excel in this job with no experience in oncology? There's no substitution, especially for a CRA, for really knowing the protocol front and back. If you need to call the medical monitor and ask them specific questions that you may not understand from the protocol, do that. Do whatever you need to do to learn that protocol, because there's no substitution for learning the protocol. And if you know each particular protocol, you don't necessarily need to know very much about oncology, because the protocol is going to cover a lot of the most important parts of that particular cancer study that you're going to be needing to look out for. And then it wouldn't hurt to know the investigator brochure a little bit. What are some of the common side effects that they've found? What is the safety profile of this drug from previous trials? So look into that as well. There's no substitution for being prepared and knowing the protocol, and then as much as you can possibly know about the drug, right? I would like you to tell me which courses online are good for an aspiring CRA. I found some that had bad reviews and were scams. I am an immigrant with a foreign bachelor's degree in environmental science and currently a geriatric nursing assistant in the state of Maryland. So, I don't know what's out. I mean, I do know there's a lot of courses out there, some reputable, some not, some very costly, some not. For this very reason, I'm launching my own CRA Academy with 2 business partners of mine. We have the course outline set up. It's just a matter of getting it all presented in a video format with slides and with printouts. This is going to give you like a crash course on everything you need to know about being a CRA. And then we're also going to go one step further when you're done and try to help you land a job somewhere. So I don't know what the price point will be yet, but if you can find something out there that is not too costly, that can perhaps help you find a job when you're done with the course, which I don't think they do. I think mine will actually be the first one, but I could be wrong. Make sure you don't spend too much money on it, or if you can, just wait for mine to come out. Right now it's December 15, so I really hope I hope before this year's over, we're going to start letting some of our beta users, that means people who've been on our waiting list for a long time, start, and we're going to literally handhold them through the entire process and make sure that they get interviews when they're done at CROs. I think we're going to open it up to the public sometime in the first quarter of 16, right? So if you could wait that long, that's fine. In the meantime, what you should be doing, the most important thing you can be doing as far as being proactive, is maybe working on the side. I know you're a geriatric nursing assistant. I think what you can do on the side is to gain some clinical research experience. Go apply at research sites around where you live. Tell them you're going to work for free as a recruiter, and they only need to pay you when the patient that you referred randomizes. And in exchange for that, you're going to have them allow you to put on your CV that you're a recruiter at this site for these trials. And you do geriatric nursing assistant, so guess what? Look for sites in your area that do Alzheimer's trials, that do diabetes trials, all the indications typically associated with geriatric patients. Apply, and you can work for more than one. If you're an independent contractor recruiter on the side, you can work for 5, 6, 7, 8 of these places, and now you have a bunch of studies to add to your CV that's going to make you a much better candidate for when you actually do apply to CROs to be a CRA, right? So thank you for that, and stay tuned for my CRA Academy, but in the meantime, you need to be proactive about it. Here's another one. I have 3 doctors who do research. They want me to get them business. I'm just trying to figure out how to set this up. Do I go partners with them or remain on my own? I'm doing the research about the business now. It's all very new to me. So there's different ways to go about doing this. What I would do, and I usually like to play things for the long haul and play the long game when it comes to doing these kind of things. I would create my own company, and you can call it an SMO, although I tend to stay away from that phrase, but you're basically going to be an SMO where you have a doctor in one office, you have another doctor here, another doctor there. They're completely unrelated, they don't work together. And you conduct trials out of all of their offices under your company, and you pay each one of them rent for using their space, or at least a portion of their rent. You don't want to pay the whole thing. And pay them 10 to 15%. I would go up to 20% of the gross study budget. You keep the rest. You hire the coordinator, or better yet, you train someone in their office to be a coordinator. Then to split the costs there with that person's salary. That's what I would do. That's how most SMOs get started. And another thing I would suggest is start with one at a time. So start with one study, and then learn all the mistakes that you're gonna make there. Learn how to learn how to correct those mistakes. Learn how to avoid them in the future, and then start your second site. Start another trial at a second site, and then after that, start the third one. You don't want to be repeating the one mistake at 3 places, right? Last one. I'm a reporter working on a piece about how to attract millennials into clinical trials and how this generation has changed recruiting. I want to follow up with you specific questions on millennials. How would you get them enrolled in studies? So, all right, the problem with most millennials, and it's not a problem at all, they're relatively healthy. They haven't developed any chronic diseases yet. Most of them haven't. Some have. The ones that have, the way to target them, obviously if they're teenagers and they're not adults yet, you kind of have to target their parents. But if they're of consenting age, usually it's 18, you need to be on Snapchat. You need to be on Facebook, although less so. You definitely need to be on Instagram. You need to be where they are, right? Wherever they're hanging out, getting information, wherever they're talking to their friends, that's where you need to be, all right? You also need to create content, compelling content, for them to actually want to look you up. So TV ads, less so, because most millennials watch TV like this when the commercials come on, or they don't even watch TV at all. But if you're targeting their parents, TV is still a good option. Newspaper, I take it back, newspaper is for their parents. Newspaper is not going to work for most millennials. So I would do a lot of Facebook ads, a lot of Google ads, be on Snapchat, be on Instagram, and don't just go on there spamming them. Go on there providing actual value without expecting anything in return. And if you do enough of that and build enough trust equity in this group, you're going to eventually get some nice returns on it. So that's what I would do. I mean, good luck with that, because most millennials so far they're too young to actually have any chronic diseases. But the ones that do, you need to be where they are, all right? We actually recruited a few patients from Snapchat, so I have a video on that. Okay, and here's one more. Here's one more that has 2 questions, right? Number 1, I'm aware that I shouldn't offer anything to eat to a CRA. Is that still true during a 6-hour site initiation visit as well? So I don't know how this came up, but there's no rule that says you shouldn't offer anything to a CRA. Some CROs require that their CRAs do not accept food, but in my experiences, that's rarely the case. Most will actually offer to buy lunch for you if you bring it up. So this is like false. There's no rule that says you should not buy lunch for your CRA. I mean, it's the polite thing to do. The one place where I could say maybe lunch would not be a good idea is if you start getting CRAs on a daily basis. You're almost gonna have to start catering food especially if you have multiple CRAs on a daily basis. I know some of the larger sites have 2 or 3 CRAs every day at the site, so what that site does is just cater food every day. So employees get to eat for free, CRAs get to eat for free, everybody's happy. So there's no rule that says you can't feed CRAs. I mean, for a 6-hour visit, it'd be nice to give them bagels or donuts in the morning, coffee, and oftentimes the CRA, especially once you build a rapport with you and you are their site, they're going to start offering to buy food or bring food. Or, I mean, I've had monitors order pizzas, I have had monitors bring bagels without me even asking, and vice versa. So just, there is no such thing that you should not offer anything to eat to a CRA. Just be a human being, right? Unless there's some kind of policy at your site that says you shouldn't, then I guess you really have no options there, right? Question 2, how much will you charge for sending a study lead? Okay, so that's not really a question. I do this kind of stuff. We do a lot of consulting in my consulting firm, where we provide study leads to sites. So if you're interested in that, give me a call or text or email 949-415-6256. What I can tell you is we don't behave like study brokers, where we'll take a percentage of your budget whether you enroll any patients in it or not. We don't do that. It's a flat fee. It covers a lot more than just sending you study leads. We can definitely talk much more about it. 949-415-6256. So that's all the questions for today. Thank you very much for watching. This is Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.